Hi, I wanted to share a transmission today about why you might feel called to go to France and also more about the path of a grid worker. And one of the really important aspects of grid work, especially within the south of France. So, there is a common theme that's been playing out in the last couple of weeks for me and within people in my field, and something that I've been having to unravel within my own akashic blueprints, as well as other sisters that are around me. And this made me come to realize how important this aspect of grid work that I'm going to share is, and reasons why people feel called to go to a certain land without much logical reasoning of why. Usually there's something here for you, and what your soul is really calling to experience and receive from this land is usually something deeper, like a soul retrieval, or to clear a certain akashic timeline from a past life within those lands. And in context of the south of France specifically, a lot of the people who feel called to go here end up having soul remembrances of past lives from the south of France as a Cathar. And for those who aren't aware and have not been seeing my other posts, the Cathars were some of the last direct descendants of Mary Magdalene and the true original teachings of Christ. And so they really carried more of the templating of divine union and the true original teachings before the distortion of the church. And because of this, they also experienced a lot of spiritual oppression for their beliefs and just for being who they are. And this led to a massive series of crusades and killings of the entire Cathars. And as I personally have been stepping in deeper into my leadership and into my voice, this naturally requires a deeper embodiment of coming into my voice. And this has been really a long journey and a deep, long integration of part of my path that's been going on for years. But as I've been most recently stepping into it in a really deeper way, as I've been building my mystery school out in the last year and having to step into sharing my voice literally as I'm doing now, it's helping to bring more awareness of what needs clearing from these akashic lifetimes and timelines that have affected my soul, and feeling safe and releasing fear around being fully embodied in my wisdom and in my voice. And in the last couple months has been a great time for this, and I've had to go into a lot of akashic lifetime clearings of both Egypt and the Cathars, and I recognized most recently that I have an imprint of a blockage around my throat from my lifetime as a Cathar and getting killed for embodying my spiritual wisdom. So I've recognized on this path that a lot of women who walk the Priestess path have this show up in different ways and experience what I call priestess wounds that show up in the body in different places and significant centers of the woman's body. So whether that be the throat, but also the womb and the yoni and other places where connected to past lifetimes where we were stifled in our power and who we truly are, and being in our wisdom, which taught us that it's not safe, which can create these long-standing blocks and imprints that can last for lifetimes. And so as I'm communing more with the Cathars, especially because I'm leading my pilgrimage in the south of France again in September, and so I'm communing with them deeper, I've received this deeper level and key piece of awareness around how I have a direct correlation between these throat blocks and my lifetime as a Cathar. And so this is a lot of the grid work that can be done in the south of France, especially for those who feel they have a connection to the Cathars. And a lot of women who go to Montségur remember this deeply in their body. They can feel it in the field of how there was a large massacre that happened there and how that's affected them. And it's so funny and spontaneous and serendipitous how I had a recent conversation with a sister who we haven't talked in months, and we both start sharing about how we've had these recent Cathar soul retrievals and healings in our own personal lives, and how strange that is that we're both having this random conversation and both having this happen, and she's experiencing pains in different places of her body that she knows is directly connected to her lifetimes as a Cathar. And I've recognized how strange this is also because we both went to Montségur together, and that's the mountain where they kept their teachings and they practiced and lived daily in their devotion, and that's also where they had the large massacre in the 1200s. And so how ironic is it that we were both in Montségur together and now having this conversation around these deeper soul imprints and remembrances of being a Cathar and how it's affected our soul. And it's interesting how I was reading the Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and returning to it in a new way and reading about the Cathars in this book. And in this book, it speaks about how the Cathars had a hidden treasure and that the Cathar crusade that happened in Montségur, they were going to retrieve whatever this hidden treasure was. And within this book, it speaks to how the hidden treasure could very well have been the Holy Grail, and the book connects it to the Holy Grail mysteries, and how it's most likely that this hidden treasure was really their wisdom, right? And that the forces that be that wanted to kill and oppress wanted to take this wisdom and suppress it and oppress it. And this, of course, can show up in our body as well, as I've been speaking to. And they say in this book that the hidden treasure could have gotten moved to Rennes-le-Château, and also how, it's weird how before I even had the context of this, I hadn't read this book previously before going to Montségur. I knew about the Cathars in direct connection to Montségur, but that's all I knew. And when I went to Montségur for the first time, I was standing in a circular group space, and we were all in meditation, and I could feel and tune into the etheric temple of Montségur, and what was all uniting us was this holy grail, this etheric holy grail in the center of us, and I could see it and I could feel it. And from that experience, I realized that the holy grail has been by the Cathars put and placed into the etheric realms for us to access. And so what I realized is that when we do this grid work, we can also connect to the wisdom that has been left for us, that has been kept in the etheric temples. So even though these temples may have burned and these temples may be destroyed, and time can change and structures change and the mystery schools become inactive, but the truth is that this wisdom can always be accessed, and it has been left for us to access not only within our DNA, but also within the etheric space within these sacred sites. So when we go to these sacred sites and we go on pilgrimage, we can access these wisdoms. and access these teachings. So when we go to Bougarache in the south of France, we can connect to the Essene Mystery School that practiced within the mountain there. And when we go to Rennes-le-Château and we go beneath Rennes-le-Château, we can access the Isis Mystery School that practice there, and we can connect to their teachings. And when we go to Montségur, we can connect to the wisdom of the Cathars that's literally been placed within the etheric temple, within the grail that I saw. The grail will never be taken. The grail can always be accessed, and it can be accessed inside of you just as it can be accessed in these sacred places.